Tom Kench is next, and I'm just going to put him right up in S tier where he belongs immediately, because that's where he belongs. So Tom Kench is one of my favorite designs in League of Legends. As, like, not necessarily as a character design, but as a whole character. Old Two Coats, the River King, the Swindler on the riverboats, because there's, like, elements of Mark Twain in there. There's elements of, like, good old-fashioned folk tales of trickster gods that, like, scam people into, well, being consumed and dying. He's a really cool character, like, just on the whole. And he's also the King of War in League of Legends, which, again, is not really my kink, but I'm glad that it exists for people. Like, I'm glad that there's that variety in, hey, if you're into that kind of thing, well, here's your wank material. Pull down your pants and enjoy yourself. I like that there is that variety to it. And also, it's just nice to have a fat character in the game who isn't, like, fucking Gragas all the time. So yeah, I like Tom Kench. I like the detail of his tiny little top hat. Like, this tiny little thing on top of his head is such a good thing. Because it's so deceptively cute when it really shouldn't be. And I like the use of the catfish, like, to give him this big, huge, enormous grin. Like, just this massive, because he is a charmer, he's a scam artist, he's a con man, and that's his whole personality. He's like, why, sir, allow me to take you on a little ride down the river, if you do me kindly and just get into my mouth. Like, that's his whole personality, is this charming southern gentleman person who then, like, turns around and fucking murders you. Which is, like, it's just good character design. It's a good character. I love his theme, especially. Let's listen to it right now, actually, come to think of it. I think I have it somewhere. Yes. Let's see, Hecatiana. Personally, I think that with her new lore, Syndra's clothing has a bit more sense than before, at least in a psychological way, because of an abusive childhood. What's your opinion about it? Have a nice day. No, I don't. Unless you make some kind of BDSM theming explicit in her story, like some kind of being a glutton for punishment or being a femdom or something, I don't think it works. I can't go that deep. I can play it on guitar, though. That's about as far as I've gone with this. Anyway, Talia. My girl Talia. Remember how I talked about how I like variety? Yeah. Guess who is literally the only fucking female character in League of Legends to have thick eyebrows and a nose that looks like that? Yeah, it's her. There's only one. Every single goddamn hot lady in League of Legends has the same fucking eyebrows and the same fucking nose. Talia is the only one who dares to be even a little bit different. Which is nice. Like, I like Talia a lot, again, just because of the fucking variety. And that's something, this is one of my bugbears with League of Legends. Like, fucking can't you just do more than 2 kinds of noses, League of Legends? There's more than 2 kinds of noses, you motherfuckers. But that's a story for another day. It has nothing to do with Talia herself. So, some of you may know the production history of Talia, that the creators of the character originally intended for her to be pitched as the first trans character in League of Legends. She was supposed to be, like, basically have been raised as a boy, but through her discovery of her power as a rock magician, and through, like, her discovery of her own identity, transition into a new identity as Talia, a girl. That never came to pass for a number of reasons. Part of it was suppression from Riot management, because of course, as always, but also just because the team themselves knew that they were never going to get approval for it, so they never really fought that hard for it. Because they just, like, they had the sense that, like, there's literally no way in hell this is ever going to be approved. We'll have it as our own headcanon, but we'll never actually push it. So that was there, which fucking sucks. It fucking sucks that the team at Riot were like, we have this creative vision for the character, but we just know that we're not going to be allowed to follow it. We just know we're not going to be allowed to be creative about this. We're going to have to conform. And they knew that ahead of time. Which is like, ugh. Fucking tedious. Anyway, Talia deserves more love, says Inamus. She has a great design and interesting lore with Yasuo, but due to her kit-low play rate, she gets glossed over a lot. Yeah, that happens, unfortunately. But anyway, Talia, for me, because I like her, and because this is my list, she goes into the S tier. Just because, again, she might only be A tier, except that she has different eyebrows and a different nose. Right. Moving on to Talon, Mr. Assassin's Creed himself. Talon's kind of boring. I know he has fans. I'm like, but for me, he just looks like an extra from some other video game that wandered over. Oh, Reggie DCH, no, it's not Tencent. Tencent doesn't give a damn. Like, so long as they censor it in China, Tencent doesn't give a damn what the Riot Games puts in the game in the West. So it's not Tencent that are forcing them to do any goddamn thing. It's internal censorship, which is what every person I've talked to who has tried to get anything queer or LGBT through in the Riot design team, every time I've heard from them, the pressure comes from the American Riot team. It's from American management. It's not... Tencent doesn't give a damn outside of China. They don't give a damn. Anyway, yeah, he's Mr. Assassin's Creed. Essentially, he's got the same kind of cloak that Asir does, but his cloak is like, it's got spikes and knives on it, which, I don't know, like, sorta. He's just like a very generic assassin dude, like with a knife and spiky and knife and spiky stuff. So I don't know what to say about Talon, really. His story is about him being like a relentless, obsessive perfectionist who's completely dedicated to getting every kill completely perfect and never making any kinds of mistakes ever. And that kind of doesn't come across in his character design very much. Like, he doesn't really look like a fussy perfectionist as such. Certainly not in his character model. But, I mean, yeah, sure, all right, why not? He's not really my kind of character design. For me, he's a C tier. I just don't feel like there's anything to say about him. Moving on to Tarek. Another character people like to cite at me when I say that male characters in League of Legends are not as sexualized as the women. People say, oh, but what about Tarek? Which is like, have you ever seen a sexualized, like, have you ever seen the porn that women look at? Have you ever seen the porn that gay men, like, he has cleavage. You can find that hot, but that's not sexualized. It's not the same thing. Just because he's hot doesn't mean he's sexualized. Anyway, that's my particular bugbear out of the way in my soul. And by the way, I think a lot of people think that Tarek is supposed to be bi or pansexual. Yeah, probably, but Riot have been very definite about never ever confirming it ever. Like, one of the writers at the time when Tarek was released said, oh, Tarek loves everyone. But that's it. That's all they've ever said on the matter. And they've never allowed any confirmation of that he's maybe got a crush on Ezreal or anything like that. No, he's just, oh no, he's a very loving man. Like, so take that as you will. I headcanon him as trans or queer or pansexual as anything. Fuck Riot on this one. But there's been no official confirmation of it. Oh, Dark Requiem, thank you. Anyway, Tarek. So, Tarek's original character design was a bit of a mouthful. Or a bit of a eyeful, perhaps, rather. No, you can't. Let's see if I can find the really, really original one from way back in the day. Well, I guess that's the best I can do. This is what Tarek used to look like. Way back in the day, he was a fully armored gem knight who like had a thing of like, oh, I'm gems and I do gem magic with the gems and the gems are truly outrageous and stuff. And he was kind of dumb and terrible and a huge meme. which he deserved to be, because he was a silly character design. So Riot decided, okay, let's take this sort of vague idea of gems and turn that into crystals, sort of, instead. And then we make him an aspect of the... Wait, aspect of the... Is it the Wanderer? What's it called specifically? Hang on. Aspect of the Protector. There it is. And have him climb Mount Targon, become an aspect. Now he's the aspect of the Protector, and he sheds all of this armor, all of these official statures of rank of Demacia, and becomes instead this wandering symbol of protection. Which makes him, at least in my opinion, he conflicts a little bit with Braum in that respect, because Braum's whole thing is that he is the #1 best protecting man who protects everybody in the protecting of the League of Legends thing. It kind of overlaps a little bit with that thematic, but because he's such a different realization of the concept, it kind of works, because rather than Braum, who's this, Braum is here, you can count on me, my friend. Tariq is a much more soft-spoken, quiet, sort of masculine protectiveness. That's kind of, it'll be all right, my friend. Everything will, like, more kind of that calm, sort of soothing, masculine personality thing that's going on with him. And so that's, like, kind of nice. In terms of his character design, he's fairly simplistic character, really. He's got the pauldrons and he's got the crystals hovering above him, but outside of that, he wears like a very generic outfit, really, that emphasizes a simplicity and a humility of the character. And for my money, it works perfectly well for the character that he's supposed to be. It also means that he just doesn't get to be exceptional. Like, he doesn't really get to be like a wow character, or well, really that interesting once you get right down to it. Anyway, I can feel my voice is definitely starting to hurt a little bit now, so I'm gonna go get myself a bit more tea, and we'll be back to talk about the demon spawn from hell. Alright, let's get into it with this little piece of goddamn motherfucker. So, Teemo, then. I was actually lightening up on Teemo a little bit. Oh, hang on. Get up, girl. I was actually lightening up on Teemo a little bit. I was kind of mellowing out on him. I was kind of becoming okay with him. A little bit. Just a little bit. And then Legends of Runeterra came out. And then Teemo decks came out. And Teemo turned out to have Elusive. And he could double the number of mushrooms in your fucking deck. And so I stopped mellowing out on Teemo. Teemo is the worst. I hate Teemo. Teemo needs to go away and die forever. I want him removed from the game. All of the games. Always. God damn it. Anyway, Teemo as a character design is, again, one of the early Yordles that really kind of defined the idea that Yordles are small, fuzzy creatures, especially apparently the male ones. And insofar as he's supposed to be like the Swift Scout, he sorta lives up to that, kinda? Like, in the sense that he's got maps on his back, and he's got goggles, I guess. He doesn't have a spyglass or any travel equipment that seems like it would be useful for actually scouting around or anything, but he does have the spyglass. What am I saying? He does have the spyglass, but he doesn't have any, like, camping equipment or anything that seems like it'd be useful for scouting. He's got a blow dart, of all things, a blowpipe, which is kind of weird. And Teemo isn't like a terrible design. He's just... I don't know. It feels hard to talk about Teemo because he's kind of been eclipsed by his status as a fucking meme. Teemo is a meme. Like, he's a meme in the League of Legends community, which is why he's never really going to be changed. He's way too iconic in League of Legends. They can't change him substantially, really. And we also really don't know where Teemo belongs anymore, because in Legends of Runeterra, he's associated with Piltover and Son. He hangs out there, he grows his mushrooms there, which I think he's still found in the Kumungu jungle ultimately, but then he's also, like, the Swift Scout of Bandle City. Like, that's the whole thing, is he's a scout for Bandle City, and is that still true in the current version of the lore? Unknown. He kind of needs a lore update to clarify where he exists, and he also needs a complete goddamn... Like, all the Yordles do. The Yordles themselves need a complete lore update. Bandle City needs a complete lore update to clarify what the hell it is. and how we're supposed to think about it. I'm never gonna stop being kind of salty about the way that the Yordles are still kept so deeply ambiguous. But anyway, that's Teemo. Let's get rid of him. Let's go over to Thresh, another character who was my main for a good long while. And Thresh is like... I have some mixed feelings about him, because there's two things I really fucking like about him. His hook and his lantern. Like, those two things are such a cool thing to base the champion around, as, like, he's this chain warden. So he's got this lantern that he carries with him, like, as though he's walking down the prison hallways, just monitoring for trouble. And then he's got the hook that he uses to capture people and entrap them. And those two things are really, really cool put together. And I really like the idea of the floating, flaming skull with even, like, hooks on the ends of its skull dreadlocks? I don't know what those are supposed to be, but, like, that's a very cool character design idea. The thing about Thresh that bothers me a little bit is that it's all of this. Like, it's just all of this everything. This, like, oh, this bone collar and bone straps around his body, and then he's got these bone spikes coming out of these bone things with skulls and bones and skulls and bones and skulls and bones and skulls and bones and keys and skulls and bones and spikes and keys and skulls. He's very extra. Like, there's so much going on with Thresh. And it just feels like way too much, and none of all of this skull and bones undead nonsense feels like it really ties into the whole chain warden idea. Like, the whole idea of Thresh being this, like, cruel jailer who keeps people trapped and tortures them over time. All of this skull stuff is just like, he's undead, he's undead, he's undead, he's undead, he's undead. Do you get it? Do you get it? He's undead. Do you get it? He's undead. Do you get it? Do you get that he's undead? Because he's undead. He's an undead guy who's dead, who's undead. Which, like, it's just... it bothers me a bit, and so I keep him, like, in a B tier. Because, like, if you had a more focused, sleek design, like something was smoother and more clear in exactly what it wanted Thresh to be, I feel like it would be an A, but as it stands, is like, this just, to me, feels just like a mess. It feels messy, rather than, like, directed. Moving on to Tristana. Tristana, the Megling Gunner. So, it used to be in League of Legends for a very long time ago. I think it was very quickly retconned, but it used to be that Bandle City was occupied by two species, the Yordles and the Meglings. And the Meglings were basically gnomes, I think, and I think maybe Poppy was originally supposed to be one of them, but Tristana was the first and the only one that was ever named a Megling in the lore, to the best of my knowledge. And what was a Megling? I don't know, and neither did Riot, so they retconned them out of existence pretty quickly. But, like, yeah, basically gnomes, essentially, I think, was what they were supposed to be. And so we got Tristana out of that, who did not look anything like a Yordle once they started retconning that, hey, Yordles actually the furry ears and they're kind of fuzzy little creatures, Tristana ran into a problem because she just looked like a tiny gnome thing. And so she got her rework, which still, to this day, I feel like Tristana has some of the greatest animations. In fact, I need to show you some of them. I need to show you some. Teemo.gg, model viewer. Give me the Tristana, because Tristana has some absolutely fantastic animations. Let's see if I can find... Yeah, there we go. Have a look at this. Where's the other one? No, it's the... It's her spell. Is it this one? No, but, like, Tristana is some of my favorite animation because her entire character is defined by her relationship to her gun, to her cannon. Why can't I find the one I'm looking for? There we go. Is defined by her relationship to the gun, to her cannon, as she's one of the first characters in League of Legends that used this extreme squash and stretch technique to really emphasize like the agility and the fun of this tiny little Yordle, because that's one of the problems that old Tristana had, if you remember, is like she was basically a head on legs. Like, that was basically all that was going on. She was a head on legs that kind of wobbled around the battlefield with a giant cannon, and the size relationship between the Yordle and the cannon was terrible. It made it impossible to animate her in any kind of an interesting way. And so new Tristana comes along, and they solve that problem by going, okay, let's be fucking Looney Tunes about it. Let's just go hard on getting... that was in... Let's just go hard on going completely cartoony with this tiny little thing that carries this enormous cannon around and just animate the hell out of it. It's just absolutely brilliant animations. Anyway, that doesn't have anything to do with the character design. The character design itself is also quite good because much like Poppy, they keep it pretty simple. She just wears this kind of blast suit with like a glove to protect her, and other than that, like very simple. With like, she's got some bullets because the main draw of attention with Tristana is her big face, which is one of the first faces that had full facial animation, by the way, on League of Legends characters, and the giant cannon that she carries around. And that simplicity works in her favor because that's kind of all you need to know about her, is that she is this enthusiastic, happy little cannon girl who's gonna blast you to Kingdom Come if she gets the opportunity to do it. And just because I love her animation so much, she's an S tier for me. Right, Trundle. He's one of the early, like, full, complete reworks of a champion in League of Legends history. And I remember at the time, the League of Legends community were very, very, very upset that they lost the original Trundle, who, like, this is those of you in the audience who are like a little bit older might remember, was a truly like brilliant, gorgeous, iconic, and very important part of the League of Legends visual universe. And I can't believe that they would take this brilliant masterpiece of a character away from us. I mean, I for one miss his cracked little toes. I just adore. Now, as I've said previously, I do lament that League of Legends moved away from having ugly characters, from having unpleasant characters that whose fantasy wasn't being badass or being cool. And Trundle is one of those, certainly. But also, I will not argue that the trash troll that Trundle used to be was a particularly compelling character. Like, even as an ugly, disgusting character, he wasn't very compelling or interesting to really look at. There wasn't a lot of good storytelling there. At least I didn't think so. Trundle, as an ice troll, as a member of like the Freljordian community, has a lot more story to him. He has some power structures to interact with. He gets to, oh, I see, traditional Trundle, is it? Frickin' horny chat. There you go. There you go. Traditional Trundle. There you go. Yeah, that got a lot of people very horned up when they revealed him. But yeah, he has, because the old Trundle had nothing to interact with. There were no other characters that interacted with his region of the world, that were part of like his universe, that were really part of his story. New Trundle, because he's part of the Freljord, as people can stop thirsting over the forest troll, because he's part of the Freljord, has a lot more stuff to interact with. Like, there's a lot more story for him to be part of. There's like people who can manipulate him, antagonists that he can deal with, and etc., etc. So yeah, New Trundle is like a much better character design than the old one. That being said, he's also like just an ice troll. I don't feel like there's that much to him as such. Oh shit, I accidentally opened up Premiere Pro. Didn't mean to click on that. Go away. Go away. There we go. there's not that much interesting about him. Like, he's got the giant ice club, and I like that he's got red hair as a contrast to his blue body and the blueness of the entire rest of the character. But outside of that, it's like, yeah. And then there's Tryndamere. Yeah. He's got horns on his helmet. Like, why does he have horns on his helmet? Why would you do that? Well, obviously because you're doing a fantasy barbarian character. So Tryndamere kind of takes the same strategy as Braum, where the whole thing of him running around without his shirt on is supposed to be about he's impervious. Like, he's literally too angry to die at all times. So he's impervious to the cold. He doesn't give a damn about it. He will run around with his fucking biceps out and doing this thing. But ultimately, Tryndamere is also just like, he's just every barbarian in every fantasy game. Like, he's all of them. He's got a skull on his belt because why? Because barbarian. He's got a horned helmet. Why? Because barbarian. He's got chest without clothes on because barbarian. And he's boring as hell, and I don't want to talk about him. Ash deserves better. Although they do complement each other in how terrible their designs are. Moving on to Twisted Fate. He looks better, I think, in the new Tales of Runeterra short, where, like, the one where he's interacting with Misfortune, where they've eased back a little bit on, like, the golden pauldrons on the coat thing, and leaned more into the wandering gambler aesthetic with, like, the vest and the shirt and, like, the sort of well-polished demeanor and manner. But Twisted Fate is also the original cowboy character in League of Legends. He's the original, well, howdy there, ma'am. Like, he's the original that thing. The original fedora tipper. And that legacy still very much comes through. Let me see if I can find... Let's see if we can find his original splash art. Yeah, that looked something... I can't find a good size version of it, but... that's more or less what Twisted Fate was like in the early days. Like, this... don't know what the fuck it was supposed to be, kind of weird mix between a toreador and a wrestler and a cowboy. And he looked terrible. And then there was his character model, which looked something like that. Which, like, I don't know what the fuck any of that was supposed to be. So it was an upgrade when eventually he got turned into something that looks vaguely human. And looks vaguely like it could justify the smarmy attitude that he comports himself with. But outside of all of that, Twisted Fate just isn't an interesting character design. Like, he's every goddamn wandering gambler design already. The Tales of Runeterra version of him is more like a B tier, but Twisted Fate to me is a C tier, because, like, yeah, I've seen a million of these characters before. There's really nothing unique or interesting about him as such. Right, Twitch. Now, as some of you may know, I keep rats as pets, and therefore I'm kind of inclined to be charitable towards dear Twitch, who is the only true rat in League of Legends other than Silas. Sip tea. But Twitch has kind of the same problem that some of the other characters have, in that he has no lore. The only lore he has is, like, he's a mutate, it's a sewers, rat, big, mutate, shoot things with crossbow. That's it. Like, that's literally all there is to Twitch. There's no story, there's no lore, there's no concept of what is he about, what does he want, what's his mission in the world, what's he trying to do? Is he trying to accomplish something? Is there anything that... No, he's just a rat who sewers shoot people. That's it. And, like, as such, like, he's a good character design for that. Like, he looks like that. But, again, he's also painfully generic in kind of the same way that Twisted Fate is. He's just a giant fantasy sewer rat who shoots things with a crossbow. He's like a Skaven. And I wish there was more to him. Like, I wish there was more of a sense of what is he, what does he want, what's he trying to do, how should we relate to him? Oh, his original model? Yeah. This is the original Twitch model. Kind of just not very good. And, like, I wish there was more to Twitch, because if there was, then I could probably put him in a higher tier, because his character design would have something to interact with, but as it stands, no, just frankly not so much. This just isn't a lot to him. Moving on to, speaking of old character models, hello, Udyr. You should really just be replaced with Spirit Guard at this point. But yeah, Udyr is another one of the awkward champions who has been kind of left behind by the state of the lore over time, because originally, Udyr was like a wandering wild man, basically, like who was able to channel spirits of animals and stuff, and then he ran into Master Yi and was unable to defeat him, like wasn't able to land a single blow on him because Master Yi was super good at dodging and stuff, and then Master Yi taught Udyr to control his rage better, sorta, kinda, and then Udyr joined the League of Legends because of reasons. That has been retconned rather substantially in that Udyr, for one thing, he's Sejuani's father, which, that's a thing, and secondly, skin changers and berserkers and shamans have become part of the Freljord mythology. People who take on the characteristics of various animals, especially bears, in terms of the Ursine, who take on the characteristics of the Volibear. Oh, it was Lee Sin. It was not Master Yi, it was Lee Sin. You're right. They take on characteristics of bears, like moose, and like whatever other animals live in the Freljord. And that's part of the shamanistic tradition, which is something that Lysandra has, yes, he is Sejuani's father. That was revealed in the short story that he got recently. Which is kind of a big deal that they never followed up on. And if you want to know about Sejuani's mother, you should read the Ash Warmother comic, because it goes into detail about it. So that's, Udyr is now from the Freljord. He's a shaman from the Freljord who left the Freljord and traveled to Ionia in the hopes of finding some peace and quiet from all of, being a shaman apparently is a kind of powerful form of empathy where you become keenly, just painfully aware of all the thoughts and feelings of every other living thing around you, all of the animals, all of the people. And that was so painful for Udyr that he went to Ionia to try and learn to control himself. I think maybe he met Lee Sin before that. Lee Sin was traveling through. Something along those lines. He trains with Lee Sin, he learns to control himself more or less, returns to the Freljord, and joins up with the Winter's Claw to protect his daughter Sejuani, who has made the unfortunate decision to join up with the Ursine, hoping to call on the power of Volibear to help her in her battle against the Avarosans. And so Udyr, at least in that story, is preparing for a final confrontation with Volibear, essentially to protect the soul of Sejuani from being corrupted by the presence of Volibear's like overwhelming godlike power. The trouble with that, of course, is that Udyr doesn't look like he's from the Freljord at all. Like, he's wearing those ridiculous sandal shoes that are, like, very evocative of, like, Ionia in this case, but just, like, generally the kind of thing you associate with Asia. He's got prayer beads around his wrist. He's got, like, well, it's a gi. Like, it's basically a martial arts gi that he's wearing, and then he's got this bear skin on his head. So, nothing about him says Freljord. Everything about him says, I'm from Ionia, I've been living in Ionia, I'm an Ionian, like, Magic Asia kind of archetype character. And that again comes down to him just being a really old character design from long before any of those things I just said made any sense in the context of League of Legends, but it does mean he has a really weak character design, especially compared to the lore that he's supposed to embody. Plus, you have this wild berserker warrior man who's, like, constantly being possessed by animal spirits and, like, literally pressing, like, shards of steel into his palms to try and control his overwhelming urge to turn into various animals. This doesn't look like that. This looks like someone who's in control, who's powerful, who knows exactly what they're doing. It doesn't look like a ragged lunatic who's just barely managing to hold it together with a combination of training and literal self-harm. 6 hours and 40 minutes, yeah. And we're still at Udyr. Well, I mean, how many have we left now? It's 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 more! And then we'll be done, my friends. Oh, Lord. Hello, Urgots! As we talked about previously, Urgot is one of those champions who used to be just ugly and deeply unappealing, and that was kind of part of his fantasy, was then retconned into something way more badass and appealing as a power fantasy. In this instance, Urgot was the loyal executioner of Noxus, who something betrayed, blah blah blah, decided Noxus was bad at doing strength and he was going to do strength way better, and became basically the bane of Son. And I mean bane in terms of the Batman character, he became the bane of Son, and he's obsessed with restoring strength. Like that kind of thing. He's obsessed with strength and restoring power and grabbing power, and has become a menace in the lower city of Son, fighting against Vi and Caitlyn at one point, actually. As a kind of cult leader of a cult of technology-obsessed lunatics who want to do a violent uprising against Piltover, which, frankly, I can't disagree with, because Piltover fucking sucks and Son deserves a lot better, but still, nonetheless, he's an evil cult leader guy who has to be defeated and put in prison. As for his character design, I kind of like the mechanical spider thing. Like, I think that's very appealing. It's definitely not something that you get in a lot of other games, and it's certainly not something that exists anywhere else in League of Legends. Like, he doesn't look like derivative of anything. The arm cannon is a little bit silly, I think, rather than intimidating, but I do love the whole, like, I open up my stomach and fire out a harpoon and then I grind you to pieces. Like, that's a very cool ultimate and a very cool part of the character design. So, like, for me, Urgot is like a B, because he's good for what he needs to be, even if some parts of him are a little much. Maybe an A? Maybe I should be generous, actually. Yeah, I think so. Because, like, he's a good character design. I just can't help but weep a little bit for the loss of old Urgot, because I'm old and nostalgic, and my opinions don't matter. And now, Captain Demon Pants himself. Here's Varys, and get yourselves ready for another, well, resentful rant at Riot. Oh, no, Giuliano, this stream isn't going anymore. I've stopped. I'm not streaming right now. This thing you're seeing, it's a complete illusion. Captain Demon Pants Varys. So, Varys was a lot better before his retcon update. He was a lot better before he was a Darkin. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Varys was retconned into being a Darkin. Before that, Varys was an Ionian archer and guardsman who was guarding an Ionian temple place, and then his family got murdered by Noxians, and so he went into the temple and was like, I'm gonna take this dangerous evil goop and use it as a weapon to kill Noxians with. And then it was a whole revenge thing for his dead family, and that was kind of Varys' whole deal. Then we get to the point where they decide to retcon him into a Darkin in order to kind of clean up the League of Legends universe a little bit. And one of the things Riot decides to do in conjunction with that is to also retcon who Varys is. Varys is the bow. Varys is the Darkin, but the body that you're looking at is the body of a man named Valmar. Valmar and Kai are lovers. Well, they're never ever called lovers. No one ever calls them that in the official lore. They're called Heartlights. Oh, they're Heartlights. Lovers? No, that's too gauche. We'll call them Heartlights because, you know, maybe Heartlights could also just be really good friends, you know? So anyway, they're two hunters in Ionia. Valmar gets critically wounded during a Noxian attack, and Kai takes him to a temple in Ionia that's otherwise defended, where it's rumored that there's a powerful artifact that can maybe help restore his lover to life. So they plunge both of them into the deep well where the bow Varys is stored. Varys immediately takes over Valmar's body, but Kai's spirit gets dragged into Valmar as well, creating this trio of spirits that are occupying the same space. The reason why Valmar is not instantly corrupted by Varys the bow is because Kai is there with him. They've got two spirits to resist the power of the Darkin. That is the only reason why they haven't been fully corrupted. And so the character itself is a tug of war between Valmar and Kai on one side, trying to hold on to their humanity, and Varys, who wants to be a Darkin and murder things. And of course, Valmar has a pretty heavy lust for revenge against the Noxians that Varys is constantly using to try and pull on him and get him to be more, you know, darken and demonic. On the one hand, it's nice to have a canonical gay male romance in the game. It's nice that that's theoretically there. What makes it less nice is that for all of this fucking update, they did a whole music video. They did like a whole song and dance production about this update to Varys. They didn't actually update Varys. They didn't change anything. They didn't add like the spirits of Valmar and Kai floating around him. They didn't add any new voice lines. They didn't do anything. Like there was nothing added to the game itself. They just said, "Oh yeah, two gay dudes are inside there, and they're fighting with the Darken. Maybe, or they're Heartlights. I don't know. We're not going to say gay. We're not going to say lovers. We're just going to say Heartlights. Because why name the thing that it's actually supposed to be?" And so for me, that's always been bothersome. Now, if you look very carefully on the splash art here, you can maybe... and I don't even know where the hell they are. You can maybe see here, around here, that is apparently Valmar's face, screaming in the dust. So that's where we show that he's there. And I think supposedly Kai's face is somewhere in the dust clouds as well. But good fucking luck to you if you want to try and find it. So it's this update where they do make this whole song and dance production number about, oh yes, finally, this canonical gay male couple, yay! And then you can also see them, like, just desperately trying to do everything they can not to show anything anywhere where they would have to actually, like, do some censorship for it in countries that are, like, more homophobic. And it's that frustrating thing of, like, you can tell that the creatives at Riot clearly wanted to. Like, they've been fighting for this, and, like, we can finally get something. It's not perfect, but we can finally get fucking something. But you can just tell the management structure of Riot and the business concerns of Riot, the company, interfering and going, yeah, couldn't we de-emphasize it a little bit? Couldn't we make it a little more subtle? Couldn't we just tone it down a little bit? Don't call them lovers, call them Heartlights. Like, which is the frustrating thing, of course, because I don't have anything against the people, the creatives at Riot who came up with this and implemented it, because I know for a fact, by the way, the Varys update, the whole music video, all of that, it was done 2 years before they published it. And the reason why they didn't publish it for 2 years is because internally at Riot, there was a struggle between the management who just didn't want to publish the thing at all, and the people who had made it who were like, no, this fucking thing needs to be published. We spent a ton of money on it, and also we want to do this thing. Which is why I'm so fucking bitter at Riot about these things. It's like a bank, goddamn corporate coward assholes strangling their own creatives. Anyway, Varys, he's C tier. Like, yeah, fine, he's a Darken with a bow and but that's the whole thing. Production history, you know. Moving on to Vayne, another character that I don't have a lot of positive feelings about. Like, I mostly have negative feelings about her splash art because her pose is dumb. But Vayne as a character is another one of those that's, like, fine. Like, I've never really had any strong feelings about her. Really. Because, like, she's got this kind of Blade-esque vampire hunter, you know, Mistress Maven of the Night thing with the... I don't know why she wears sunglasses at night. That seems like a bad idea. But, like, Hunter of the Darkness, sort of uncompromising, like, moral absolutist thing with the big bow gun. And, yeah, sure, why not? Like, she's mostly fine. She's a little bit generic and boring vampire hunter thing, but she's mostly fine, and she looks cool when she tumbles around, and yeah. I don't have strong opinions about her, really. Yeah, she's boring Bayonetta, she's a Batman ripoff, she's all of those things. There's nothing especially noteworthy about her. Moving on to Veigar, though. Vigar. I wish I could put him in a higher tier, because I really like his character concept. But I can't, because his character design is terrible, and he's just a fucking black mage. Like, he's a black mage from Final Fantasy. He literally just that. So, you know, there's that. Anyway, Vigar. His old lore kind of sucked a lot, but the modern lore that he has now is that he was a Yordle that was captured by Mordekaiser and tortured for, like, a long time. Like, a lot. He just many hundreds, a lot of torture, just a bunch of it. And then Mordekaiser let him go free. And Vigar had been completely and utterly corrupted by this torture. Like, it completely shattered his mind and ruined him as a person. And so he set out into the world obsessed with becoming the biggest, baddest, most evil overlord that has ever walked the planet. And he tries to do that. But the trouble is, Vigar, it always kind of seems, coincidentally, weirdly, that no matter how much he tries to do evil, he keeps accidentally doing good instead. For example, he'll show up in an area, he'll find the biggest, baddest, evil wizard that lives there, and then he'll go to their tower or their lair and destroy them to prove his superior power. And then all the peasants roll up and go, hey, wait, hang on, did you just destroy the big evil wizard who lived in the tower here? And he'll be like, yes, because I am Vigar and I'm the most powerful mage alive. And they go, oh, thanks, good, nice. Oh, that was very kind of you. Thank you. Like, he ends up accidentally doing good all of the time. And the implication is, yeah, Vigar was tortured by loneliness. The implication is that it's his real personality isn't actually evil. His real personality isn't actually cruel or anything. And even though he sort of consciously tries to pursue evil, he always ends up doing good because that's who he really is. That's his real nature. I am evil! Stop laughing! Yeah. That's his true nature. That's who he really is. And that's what shines through in his terrible, terrible decision-making in his attempts to become an evil overlord. And that's a lovely lore and a lovely story. But he's a fucking black mage. So it's the same thing as with Cho'Gath. Like, Vigar is literally a black mage from Final Fantasy with some more spikes on him. And that, like, he deserves a better character design than that. He deserves a way better character design than that. Plus, his animations are terrible. Like, he's just not... He's not a very well-crafted character, I think, in terms of his visuals. So, F tier is where he has to go, even though I would love to put him higher. No, because I look at his character design and I just go, yeah, but you literally do anything else, though. All right, time for tentacles, everyone. Assume the position. So Vel'Koz for me is immediately a B tier character, because there's a couple of things about him that are really, really good. Vel'Koz is a really nice representation of the Void as a thing. Like, he is this scouting entity from the Void that's been sent to Runeterra to gather information, and he gathers information by disintegrating things into their constituent particles. And he's like this obsessive, emotionless scientist personality that just floats around and tries to figure out absolutely everything. And I like that. Like, that lore conceit is really good, and the character design that they have for that works for those purposes. Like, he's literally just an eyeball. Like, he's an eyeball, an observer, a thing that exists to look at things, to gather information, with tentacles as appendages that it uses to gather that information, like, because it needs to manipulate the world. But it's also an incredibly simplistic design. And it's like, yeah, it's good, but there's not much to it, is there? It's like very simple. There's not a lot of stuff there really to talk about. He's like, everything with Vel'Koz is kind of out in the open and obvious. And so it's not an A tier for me, but it's not bad at all. It's good. Grayson says, assuming I wasn't in position all stream. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm glad you're having fun. Moving on to my girl, Vi. My girl, Vi. I love so much about her character design. I really do. I love so much about it. But I have two nitpicks that kind of ruin it for me a little bit. Nitpick number the first. She's wearing a corset. And that, okay. So Vi's dynamic with Caitlyn, as you may remember, is that Caitlyn is the stuffy, uptight, rules-abiding, law-following, like, oh, we shouldn't cause too much property damage, blah, blah, blah. And Vi is punch first, ask questions while punching. She's the one who charges in and smashes things, who breaks through all the limits, who doesn't give a damn. Like, she's the punk to Caitlyn's uptight, like, she's the punk part of the odd couple, right? So why does she wear a corset? Why does she wear a garment that is explicitly about being restrictive? About limitations, about not being excessive, about not doing too much. That's a nitpick that I have that kind of bothers me. The second one is what is this? What is this noodle arm? What is this tiny little spaghetti thing? She's wearing like 150 pounds of pure mechanical punching power on the end of her arm? And what is this floppy little noodle thing? Like, I'm not saying she should have like Braum or Ilaoi-sized arms, but she should at least have muscle definition? Like a little bit? Just to show that it's remotely possible that she can lift this thing? Like, so those are the nitpicks that I have that kind of, I still love Vi deeply, but for me, when I think about her character design, it just, in terms of ranking, it just knocks her down to a B, when she really should be up here somewhere, but yeah. But I love Vi. Like, I love the personality, I love the punk aesthetic. One thing I really love about her, let me say something positive, I love the little frilly skirt. I love that. I love that she has this little feminine frilly skirt, like, poking out of her side, so that it's not like you don't have this kind of tired stereotype that in order to be, like, a punchy, like, rebel kind of girl, you have to be masculine. No, you can be feminine. There's lots of feminine ways to also be punching people in the face and shouting at them. Like, I like that. I like that there's a femininity to her that's very deliberate and explicit. Moving on to Victor. Yes, glorious evolution, blah, blah, blah. And Victor is a character I don't like that much, really, because, like, the whole conceit of Victor, like, the whole point of him is that he's a transhumanist, essentially. He's someone who's replacing his own body parts with mechanical parts, and who's making himself into a emotionless machine person. Let me just find, and he's one of those situations where there's a skin that I feel like would actually work better as his base character design. Not necessarily massively better, because this one is a little bit silly, but prototype Victor, for me, feels a little bit closer to the thing that Victor is kind of, the thing that his lore says that he's kind of supposed to be, like this person who's like clearly replacing large chunks of himself with mechanical bits in a way that's way more visible. Because the problem with this version of Victor is, like, he's just looks like he's wearing an Iron Man suit. Like, that's the thing, is like, he just looks like he's wearing a suit. I can't see the cybernetic graftings. I can't see the melding of flesh and machine. I can't see that. And so it just looks like a dude in a really snazzy suit of armor, and that kind of bothers me about him. And the second thing is, like, I feel like if you were gonna do the mechanical arm thing, why not give him 2 or 3? Like, why just the one of them? Why not give him a couple, and then have them all blast the laser together and stuff like that? Like, there's lots of places where Victor's character design is just like, it feels like it should have been pushed like 2 or 3 steps further. Like, just 2 or 3 steps further in the direction it was already going, in order to really get there and land. But because it isn't, it just, like, I've never really vibed with it. I've never felt like it was very good. It's very clear that the metal is designed into a ribcage. No, it's not. It looks like chest armor. Like, the ribcage isn't down here. This is his midriff. This is his guts. The ribcage is up here, and there's no ribcage there, so no. Anyway, Vladimir, the Hemomancer. Be careful to pronounce that word correctly. So Vladimir is a character I've softened on. Like, his knife fingers are dumb. Like, the knife fingers are super stupid. And the knives on his coat are super dumb. Like, just, why does he have knives on the sleeves of his thing? I think that's dumb, but I have softened on it. And the reason why I have softened on it is, let's see if we can find what I'm looking for, is this. Legends of Runeterra did it. I've softened on Vladimir because of this, because of these ridiculous punk emo kids who, like, constitute his posse. His posse and his little group of followers. Because there's this gaudy sense of sort of punkish fashion aesthetic to them that, like, you know what, yeah, I can kind of see that Vladimir would put on this ridiculous costume of, like the most obvious vampire baron I've ever seen in my entire life, with the ridiculous onion hair, because it's part of that act, like, because it's part of that little cult that he's setting up, and he's being this ridiculous larger-than-life character. I can see that with the striped pants and the stupid coat. I can see that. Like, that kind of works for me. Like, that, yeah, you know what? Sure. The reason why I've been kind of sour on Vladimir for a long time is that, like, in terms of his lore, he's supposed to be this ancient, like, basically functionally immortal blood sorcerer who learned his magic from a Darkin that he killed long ago, who's been, like, emerging in and out of Noxian history for centuries whenever it suits his particular needs and wants and wills, and this kind of Dracula figure. And that is his dumbass fucking coat with his giant collar, and the thing is, it just never, I could never get sold on it, but if we reconceptualize him instead as much more of, like, a guy who's putting on a ridiculous, eccentric aristocrat act, yeah, you know what? That works for me. Like, I can put that in the B tier. And then we have Volibear, finally getting to the newest member of the League of Legends updated champion club. Dear old Volibear. And, I mean, yeah, outside of like, Ornaringa, like, this is the most obvious furry bait I have seen in a very long time. Like, good lord, they really want you to get horny for that one, furries. And apparently they have succeeded as well, going by how the internet responded to it. So, Volibear's update is miles better than his original version, and they usually are. Like, the original version of any champion that gets an update tends to be in need of an update. Fiddlesticks is a prime example of that, and it certainly is much better tied in with the current aesthetic of the Freljord, like with the heavy runestones and, like, the braids and the true ice that he's got hanging out all over him. Yeah, all of that works way better with the current aesthetic of the Freljord. I don't think I have the Volibear theme, sorry. Yeah, the Thousand Pierced Volibear. Like, that's then my... That's my salt? Is the Thousand Pierced Volibear, who should have been the base goddamn skin. But because some people, I guess, who were Volibear mains, or whatever, the people who play him the most, or whatever, and who have the most investment in him, or whatever, decided that they didn't want a cool motherfucking badass Eldritch horror god Volibear for some reason. I don't know, guess they're weak or cowardly or something. Then you get stuck with this as an optional skin and this thing as a base skin. Meh. Like, I'm kidding, mostly. I really wanted the horror version of Volibear, but this is fine too. So, my only criticism of the Volibear update is that, like, why does he have pecs? Like, they've leaned a little bit, for me, a little bit too hard into making him humanoid. And I would have liked them to keep him just a little bit more bear-like rather than giving him like the rippling upper arms and things like that. I would like him a little bit more of a feral animal kind of feel to him. Specifically because that's kind of his whole deal, is that he rejects humanity. He rejects like being domesticated. He wants to be wild. He wants to be the wild animal, the wild spirit of the Freljord. So, you know, but as I can tell from chat right now, the pecs have certainly served their purpose of being fan service for the horny people. So, you know, yeah, good, fine about that. I would just have liked him to be, like, more bear, like, actual animal bear-like, rather than, you know, hot, sexy bear-like. Well, as a character design, like, don't have the new icon for him here, but, I'll be happy to put him in A tier. Because, like, yes, it's a really good expression of exactly what it's supposed to be. Speaking of furries, let's talk about Warwick, who is simultaneously really good and kind of a bother for me. Anyway, the Dark Prince says the Vladimir needs a VGU or at least a voice update. His Legends of Runeterra voice is stunning. If it would push him towards Bloodlord. What do you think? Also, Daddy Vladdy, drink me dry. Please let me join your cult. I love how horny you all are. Hey Sky, I love the stream. I watched the entire time. Really? I'm not sure I have watched the entire time. Which F character do you think would need the fewest changes to become an S? We can tackle that one once we're done. But I'll get back to you on that one, John Funk. And Hatsune Cat says, I've been here since the beginning, and God, this has been a trip. Hell yeah, it has. And also, chat is a hive mind, and I can't escape help. Anyway, Warwick. He's simultaneously a really cool design that I really like, and also kind of not as good as I feel like he should be. So Warwick's story, for those who don't know, is that he was a man named Warwick who was captured by Singed and used for absolutely horrifying biological experiments. Singed essentially tried to turn him into a chimera monster, a hybrid of man and bat and wolf, like a whole bunch of different animal characteristics thrown in there. Now, if I say bat and you are a little bit like, what? What do you mean bat? How is it bat? How? Well, there, it's the ears. And that's the thing about Warwick that's a little bit, like, it's a bit disappointing to me, is that he was supposed to be this chimera monster, like this fusion of multiple different animals, like, into this humanoid form. But the whole bat thing just really only comes across with his ears. Everything else is just pure wolf, werewolf thing. So it's a little bit like, okay, not quite living up to the advertisement there. But on the other hand, I love the werewolf thing with, like, the chemical tanks and stuff, like, on his back and all the mechanical stuff that's attached to him and grafted to him. This being both a werewolf and, like, a Frankenstein's monster kind of thing is a really cool combination. And Warwick's update to me is one of those that, like, easily goes into the A tier as well. Because, like, there's a little bit of disappointment in that it wasn't more of a chimera, but it's a really fucking cool werewolf. And then there's Wukong, who is, well, he's Wukong. Like, he's Wukong from Journey to the West. He's literally Wukong. And I'm kind of like with Vhagar and with Cho'Gath, I'm tempted to put him in the F tier. But I can't, because it's like, he's like a mythology character. He's not directly ripped off from another intellectual property. He's not like ripped off from Spawn or Final Fantasy. He's just a monkey. He's just Sun Wukong from Journey to the West. And one of the weaknesses of his design that creates is that he's a Vastaya from Ionia, right? But he doesn't look like anything from anywhere else in Ionia, because most of Ionia tends to be like stuck really hard in Korean and Japanese aesthetics much more than they ever seem to be stuck in Chinese aesthetics. And Wukong himself is based really, really heavily on a particular kind of Chinese medieval aesthetic. And that kind of just leaves him a kind of weak addition to the ranks of the Vastaya. And then the fact that he's also just like, they didn't even make any changes. He's just the fucking Monkey King from Journey to the West. Like, literally just the fucking Monkey King from Journey to the West. So, Well, yeah, Glam Yon has a Chinese influence to his character design, which is something that only seems to exist in Legends of Runeterra, though. Anyway, here's Xayah. And Xayah is someone I have some... See, because here's the thing. I really like Rakan, as you know, if you were watching the stream earlier. I really like Rakan. I think Rakan is great. But the whole point of Rakan is that he's a bird of paradise, right? And birds of paradise are famous for the males being incredibly extravagant versus the females who tend to just be like small brown birds with absolutely no extravagance about them whatsoever. Rakan is really loud and bright and colorful and extravagant, but then Xayah is also bright and colorful and kind of extravagant. Like, she's got more muted colors, sure, it's like more like dark blues and reds and purples, but she's still also that. And what I would have really liked from the couple, like the thing that my pie in the sky dream that was never gonna happen, is that rather than having her be just another fucking Ahri, and I mean literally, let me see if I can find that face. It's a particular piece of promotional artwork for Xayah. Yeah, there it is. Like, it's literally just Ahri. It's literally Ahri with, like, a nose ring. That's it. Anyway, the thing I would have wanted, really wanted, if I could have my way, is that Rakan stays exactly the way he is. Like, charming, big, loud, bird of paradise dude. But then Xayah is much, much more like a bird. Like, they really act, like, give her, like, a fucking beak, or, like, big, like, make her look comparatively to Rakan, like, ugly, kind of scary, actually, because that's kind of their dynamic, is that Rakan is the, hey, let's all have a dance and have some fun, woohoo! And then Xayah is the one, I'm gonna fucking murder every single Noxian in the world. Like, she's the one who's the radical terrorist character, essentially. Like, the one who wants to murder all the Noxians and throw them out of Stygian land. She's the extremist. And that extremism is not really reflected in her character design. She just looks like Rakan, where I feel like you could push that in terms of the character design way harder and make her look like almost ugly, and play into that like dimorphism that you're working with, like sexual dimorphism between birds of paradise, where the male birds are all bright and colorful and cheerful looking and the female birds are not. Like, there's so much more you could have done with the contrast to really create this horrifying odd couple dynamic thing going on with them, but instead they went with a different thing. And it's not like, yeah, like a harpy, like much more like a harpy. And it's like, what they went with instead, though, was that Xayah and Rakan are that completely insufferable, like super attractive couple who just love each other so fucking much and who can't stop making out all the goddamn time. And who are like always like two seconds away from just jumping on each other and humping. Which, like, this kind of obnoxious, but you also kind of envy them that they're so fucking horny for each other all the time. Like, that's kind of more what they went with. Like, this yuppie couple that you kind of love to hate, which I think is okay. Like, it's all right. But it just, I can't, Xayah is just another hot girl. Like, again, because League of Legends has so many fucking hot girls already, having yet another one with Xayah is frustrating, and I'm less willing to forgive it for that. So, Rakan stays where he is, but Xayah unfortunately goes down to the C tier for me. Then we have Xerath. He's like fine. My one complaint about Xerath, actually, my one complaint, and it's kind of a major one, is that he doesn't look like he's from Shurima. Specifically, like, what Xerath is the former grand advisor person to Azir, who was a slave, and Azir was kind of slow to free the slaves, even though he promised to free the slaves. And so Xerath eventually grew resentful and plotted against Azir, and then right at the last minute when Xerath was about to spring his trap, Azir was like, hey, actually, I've decided to free the slaves, and Xerath was like, well, fuck. Too late now! And then he starts doing the bad thing and tries to ascend, which doesn't go so well for him. And Renekton and Nasus show up with a coffin, that's a magical coffin that can contain things, and they lock Serath inside it, and then they lock him away in a tomb, along with Renekton, who's then driven completely insane by Serath being a fucking dickhead all the time. The trouble I have is that this shattered coffin that's sort of still barely holding Serath in check doesn't really look Shuriman. Like, it doesn't really look like it's from Shurima, and that again is because Serath is a lot older than all of that. Which is like, this is a bother and a half, but that's my major criticism. Outside of that, he's just like, well, he's just a power elemental mage guy. And like, I'm kind of wavering between C and B, C tier, because he's kind of boring. Like, he's just lightning with hands, and which is like, there's not much interest in him. He's just like, how do we embody power? Oh, I guess we'll use electricity, and this is fine, but it's not great or interesting to me. And then we have one of the big contrasts between Splash Art. Because Splash Art, he is like sexy spearman, and then you look at his actual character model, and he's like this fucking old dude. Poor Xin Xiao. Anyway, Xin Xiao is another very boring character design. Because he's like, he's a Chinese spear guy. That's it. Like, he's a Chinese spear guy. Like, specifically his aesthetic is like Chinese military history inspired. And he has a spear. And he does things with the spear. And again, he has the same problem that Garen and Lux share, that Demasia's aesthetics have kind of moved on around him, like, a lot. And he really doesn't look like he's a high officer of the Demasian army anymore. He just looks like some rando with a spear and a blue banner on it. And so Xin Xiao, for me, again, is also, like, C tier, because, like, he's not necessarily F. Because, like, hey, he at least he's an Ionian in Demacia. There's a mixture of the two styles, slightly, kinda-ish, maybe. But it's not a very good one. It's, like, just... Which leads us on to another Ionian. Hello, Yasuo. So the trouble with Yasuo is that there's only two places I can possibly put him. I can put him in S tier, or I can put him all the way down in F tier. Those are the only two places that Yasuo can occupy. He can be the best thing in the entire fucking world, or he can be the worst trash that anyone has ever seen. There's the only two options with Yasuo. But in reality, he's an A-tier character design. What I like about Yasuo, what I really quite like, is that he has that wandering samurai Ronin aesthetic down pat. Like, that's completely down and very well integrated into him, down to, like, the bottle of alcohol that he keeps with him all the time. I like the big, puffy, sort of, samurai Champloo hair a little bit that he's got going on there. I like the wind as an aesthetic and sort of the wings on his ridiculous shoulder piece, which doesn't make any goddamn lick of sense, but it looks cool, so rule of cool on that one. I like the cloak. I like that he's topless. Like, I like that that's a thing, like, sort of showing him as a kind of free spirit. And he is a very solid character design. It's just that, boy, howdy, the people who play him are probably very nice to their parents. So, moving on to Corpse Daddy. So, Corpse Daddy Yorick, for me, wavers between a B and an A tier. And probably more like a B tier, really, because he is just like... He's a grave digger monk dude who... Monk, grave digger. But the thing that kind of pushes him towards the A tier for me is that he looks like a monk grave digger guy, but he doesn't look like a monk grave digger guy from anywhere else. Like, he looks like he's very familiar, like, specific to Runeterra. And then the thing that pushes him back down again is that he looks kind of vaguely Pan-Asian-ish. He really doesn't look like much of the aesthetic of the rest of the Blessed Isles. Which sort of, like, so I'm kind of all over the place with Yorick exactly where to put him. But as a character design, he is he's actually kind of he's kind of an interesting character in that the necklace that he's wearing around his neck is a bottle of the same waters of life that Maokai, I believe, absorbed out of the ground that helped him survive the ruination and just become a twisted tree ant. This is his source of life. This is the reason why he hasn't been completely taken over by the Black Mist. It's the reason he's able to summon ghouls and the Maiden of the Black Mist to do his bidding. That water of life is the only thing that keeps him safe. And I like that as a character concept, that he has this tiny little thing hanging around his neck, which is the only thing that keeps him safe from anything in the world, from everything in the world of the Shadow Wilds. I like that he's a gravedigger. Like, I like that as a character concept, to have a gravedigger and an undertaker as a champion. That's a cool idea, and having him be like a ghoul master. Yeah, sure. But I also don't look at him and feel like, oh, wow, what a cool, that's such a cool, I never thought of that myself. Because he just wears kind of pants and a shirt and his belt, and he's got this thing on his back that I don't know what it is, but maybe it means something. So he's like, yeah, he's fine. He's fine. It's fine. And then we get to Yumi, who's a literal cat. She's a cat. It's meow, meow, kitty cat, meow, cat. There's a couple of things about Yumi, though, that are relatively unique. You've got the big golden whispers and the golden eyebrows and the little gold, whatever the hell thing she's wearing. And, of course, the fact that she's riding around on Book. And I really, like, Yumi on her own wouldn't be that interesting to me. I guess it's just a fucking cat, like, who gives a shit? But Yumi and Book, that's a good comp. I love that Book seems to have a personality and talks to Yumi and kind of admonishes her and tells her, like, stop chasing this thing around and let's move on. Like, they have this odd couple dynamic where Yumi is the ridiculous, she's literally a cat. Like, she's a fun-loving, incredibly easily distracted, kind of silly, dumb, and adorable, and Book is more serious and kind of careful-minded. I like that the Book itself is a portal to different dimensions that Yumi can kind of jump into and go to different places. Like, there's a lot of good stuff there. I won't say that Yumi is like an S-tier character design, but because of Book, I want to put her in A-tier. Because they have such a cute dynamic, it's good. My headcanon is Lulu is Nora with amnesia. I mean, that's not impossible. Not impossible, I guess. Anyway, let's move on to the Goo Man, to Zack. I used to play him a lot in the jungle for a while. I really like him. I really like his design. I like his character animation. I like the concept that he is this... Essentially, he's like 6 years old, or something along those lines, that he was created as a bioweapon, and then the scientists who created him decided instead to take him home and raise him essentially as a child, as they began to realize that he was actually sentient. And as he finally grew up, now they retconned it. It used to be that his parents were still alive and perfectly happy and living in Son, and he would go home and visit them every once in a while. But then Riot, for some unknown reason that I don't understand at all, retconned it so that Zack's parents were actually murdered. They're dead now, and Zack is Batman, or Goo, slimy Batman. He's got a Batman backstory, where he has trouble controlling his anger and his emotions, and he always explodes, partly because he doesn't have the grounding influence of his parents around any longer, which is... I don't really agree with that particular retcon. But anyway, Zack is a cool character design. He is not 100%... Like, we have seen slime characters in many video games before, but he is somewhat unique to League of Legends, partly because of that huge lower jaw that he's got, which is a detail about him that I really like in his splash art. It doesn't come across so well in the character model, but I love because it gives him this permanent grin. Like, he's almost permanently got this shit-eating grin on him. This confident, like, yeah. Like, which ties in very well to his kind of bratty teenage personality, backed up by the fact that he's like a brick shithouse of a thing. Still, he's not the most unique thing, so he's a kind of a B-tier character for me as well. And speaking of B-tier characters... Let's put Zed next to Shen, just for the neatness of it. So, Zed is the fucking Shredder. Like, he's the Shredder. Like, he's every generic evil ninja master guy. He's all of them. And he's cool. Like, he's a cool character design. I'm not saying he's not, like, rad and stuff. But Zed is, like, he's just a ninja guy. He's just a ninja guy. Like, he's literally just a ninja guy. And I don't know what else to say about him, because, like, it's just, yeah, he's a good contrast to Shen, I suppose. Like, they're two different versions, like blue ninja, red ninja. Yes. Okay. I guess that works. That's fine. So, moving on to Ziggs. Another one of the Yordles that defined the Yordles ultimately as a furry little species. Ziggs is kind of mixed on him, because, like, on the one hand, the point of Ziggs is that he, like, his personality is explosions. It's bombs and explosions. That's everything that he's about, is bombs and explosions. And to that end, it makes perfect sense that he's got a giant bomb on his back and he's always carrying bombs around in his hands. And the bombs are the colorful thing about him. The big, bright, colorful thing that you look at. And it also makes sense that he's wearing, like, a blast suit, essentially, to protect himself from the blasts that come from his bombs, which is why he can do bomb jumps and stuff like that. But on the other hand, it also just kind of leaves, like, outside of the bombs themselves, is really kind of boring and just has that giant Cheshire Cat grin as the only thing to really recommend him. And it kind of makes him hard to talk about. I do like that he had a comic where he essentially had a brief romance with Jinx, because they both love explosions so much that they bonded and almost kind of fell in love over it. Fortunately, they didn't fuck, but yeah, they probably got close. And the consequences of that happening, I don't even want to imagine. So yeah, there's not much to say about him. And then there's Cillian, who's, I'm sorry, I'm gonna put him in uncategorizable, to be charitable. Because, well, he's so fucking old. Not just because he's an old man, but he's from the very beginning of League of Legends, and he has never been updated ever. And nothing about his character design right now, nothing chimes at all. He's clock chimes. Jives or chimes at all with what his state of the lore is. Like the whole thing about Ikathia and Zillion being unstuck in time. It's like, he's just the most generic time wizard I have ever seen in my life, and he desperately needs an update. And until then, I'm going to call him uncategorizable. But, like, if I didn't, then he would be F tier, because it's just not good at all. It's so bland and generic, like painfully so. Which leads us on to Zoe, everyone's favorite character that we love. Zoe, dear Zoe, aspect of Twilight. Zoe. I like Zoe a lot. I think Zoe is good. Like, in terms of, if you want to have a trickster god, instead of doing a fucking Loki, yeah, you know what? Like, a 14-year-old overexcited girl who likes lol so random humor, you know what? That's a good mix. That's a good match for that, because that makes her exactly the right kind of fucking annoying, but also kind of adorable. So that you hate her, but you can't hate her too much. In terms of her character design, she's kind of the halfway point between a Disney princess and a Steven Universe character. And I don't know to what extent that's a good thing. Like, the one thing that bothers me a little bit about her is that her clothes are way, like, I don't know what to make of them, basically. You got this Shuriman aesthetic jewelry that she's got going on, which makes sense because she's from Targon, and Targon and Shurima share a common aesthetic heritage, which is something that's explored in the lore, which makes a certain degree of sense. But then it's like the neck warmer, but also a crop top and hot pants? Sorry? I just don't really know what to make of it. It does make her look like playful and young and like always comfortable wherever she is, but I don't know. I like the long hair. I like the long hair that contains stars and stardust and that spins into this purple thing over the course of the thing, because again, that kind of shows the changeable, chaotic nature of her character that she leaves a trail of stardust wherever she goes. Like, that's all very good. So for me, Zoe is like an easy A tier, because it's a character design that I wouldn't know how to improve, really. Because it occupies a unique space, it brings something new to the table, it's different from other women in League of Legends, other girls in this case. And yeah, it does the job. And also, I think it's a testament to the success of the character that so many people find her so fucking annoying. I think that's good. Anyway, hello, Poison Ivy. I didn't know you were licensed to appear in League of Legends. Anyway, Syra is an F tier. Syra is, she's Poison Ivy. It's Poison Ivy. It's a Poison Ivy cosplay. It's like some Elseworlds, alternate universe Poison Ivy thing that managed to show up and be in League of Legends. And there is a much better version of her. Let me see if I can find it. Did they happen to post it? No? We have to... Okay. Excuse me. So this is a video from Subjectively, which is quite a good channel. You should subscribe to them. They did a redesign of Syra, where they turned her into actually the thing her lore says she is. Because the lore says that Syra is a sentient plant who sort of absorbed some aspects of humanity into herself and then began traveling across the world trying to spread herself and consume all life on the planet. Having a carnivorous plant with like a plant face and this like completely plant covered body, like that looks like a plant monster that wants to eat the world. This looks like a this looks like a Poison Ivy cosplayer who's gonna take first prize at your favorite anime convention. Cause it's I can't, there's nothing to say about it. She's just fucking Poison Ivy, that's all. It's just Poison Ivy. And there's no way around it. Like, there's no way around it. Because it's so obvious. So she's an F tier. Anyway, there was a question from John Funk about which one of the F tier characters would need the fewest changes to become an S tier. And I honestly gotta say that that's Kai'Sa. Because, like, literally just give her battle damage, stop having her wear makeup, give her, like, actually, let me see, Kai'Sa concept art. I can actually show you some of this with concept art that Riot Games themselves developed. If I can just find the picture I'm thinking of. Where are you, you little bastard? Because there are some early explorations of Kai'Sa that are absolutely brilliant. Like, that really do capture this sense of, like, desperate survivor character. Specifically, okay, there's some concept art that shows her specifically, like, having these wild, unkempt dreadlocks. Like, just kind of falling all over her face, completely unkempt. And you've got stuff like, for instance, this right here. This one over on the right, where you can see her eyes are completely black in black, right? So you can see that there's something alien about her, that she's, like, she has on some level merged with a symbiote from some other world, like that makes her look inhuman and kind of scary and dangerous. And it's little changes like that, like if they had just actually made the character that they said that she was, give her a little bit of muscle definition, a little bit of battle damage, stop having her wear makeup, and stop trying to make her hot all the fucking time, that would have been an S character. Easily. To me. And that's definitely Kai'Sa is the easy, like the one that requires the fewest changes. Because she doesn't need a full remake. She doesn't need a full rework. You just need to change some of the details that they fucking fit her. But, yeah. That's it. Any other things? We've been going for 7.5 hours. So, you know what? Let's keep... anything else? Questions? Something you want to know? Something you want to ask? About any of the champions? Because I don't have anywhere else to be. Compared to last year's, I don't have last year's. I'd have to load up the video and see. I guess we could do that, though. But, oh boy, we managed to get through it. Somehow. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see. Let's compare. See how hypocritical I've been in changing my mind about absolutely everything. Where are you? That will have been that's September, August, June, July. Where's May? There you are. Hello. Let's see. Finished list. I can see that here, I think. Yes, there we go. Okay, let's see. We've got Azir, Bard, Camille, Echo, Gnar, Ivern, Jhin, Jinx. I put Karthus in S tier? Really? Huh. Well, he got bumped down, didn't he? Okay, no, this would take... There's 150 of them. It would take a million years to compare that. You can do that for yourselves, you guys. Here's $2 for 8 hours of work. Thank you very much. That's a nice hourly wage for a freelancer. All right, you have to face facts and give us a guaranteed best boy for League of Legends, an SSS plus boy. Who is it? You dodged earlier, not this time. No, but there's like different things. There's not one of them that's the best. They're good at different stuff. What character types do you want to see represented? Give us an old witch! I don't understand why there isn't an old witch in the game yet. I don't understand that. Like, why isn't there an old witch? Like, that's the most obvious fantasy archetype. What champion remake would excite you the most? Oh. That's I really like Annie to get a proper rework. I think that one would be the most exciting. Thank you for rating Fiddlesticks so kindly. You're welcome, Lepus. Good work, man. Thanks for a great time. Thank you, Johnny. That's kind of you. Let me... God, I'm gonna try and keep up with chat here, which is not easy. Hang on. There. Slow mode enabled, I think. So that I can keep up with this. Any chance of doing a tier list for all the legendary skins? Like, that might be an idea for a future stream. But I don't, like... I've earned quite a bit of money, to be transparent, from... Oh god, from the super chats during this live stream. And it would feel a little wrong to me to just do, like, a bunch of these streams just to cash in on it. So... like, one a year, maybe, for stuff like tier lists like this. Maybe every 6 months, something like that. Maybe. Just not to, like, over-exploit it too much. Also, just to save my voice, Jesus Christ. The monkey's paw finger curls. You get a 500-year-old witch, but she looks 18, has makeup and a giant hat and a bikini. Oh, God, don't. It's gonna be true now, calling Bluebird. I love how most of the champs I made it to S tier. Well, you've got good taste. Who would you say you have the most disappointing lore story potential? Oh, that's different from character design. The most disappointing story. That's a different thing. Who do you think needs a rework right now? Everything in F tier and uncategorizable? The most disappointing story. That's actually a little, because, like, some of the ones up here... Like, because the thing about... Most of the champions have really disappointing stories. Because Riot doesn't do anything with them ever. So, you know, it's like Diana and Leona not being girlfriends, like not being star-crossed lovers is a big one. Like, that's a huge fucking missed mark. Varys, well, no, the whole Darken thing, kind of, like, they did such a lot of good content for that, and then they just kind of dropped it like a ball. And I don't, you know, it's like, there's lots of bad things that are just not followed up on ever. That I really wish they'd do a better job of. Let's see. Do it. Content deserves pay. T ain't free. Yeah, but I want to make videos, though. I don't want to stream all the time. Let's see. Have you seen Twisted Fate level up animation Legends? Yes, of course I have. Many times. It's very good. Would you ever do a redesign? I don't know. Like, if it takes a lot of work. And, like, I have so many other things to do. Like, when people ask me, would you ever do X or a video about Y? The answer is almost always, yeah, I would like to. If I had the time and, like, I didn't have to pay my rent and stuff like that. You do a million things, but there's only so much time and I have to prioritize things. For example, I really want to finish Dark Souls 2 soon. Why'd you just kind of gloss over Rammus and just drop him in S tier? Just for the meme? I mean, plus, he obviously belongs there. Where else would you put him? He can't be anywhere else. Rammus is perfect. And anyone who disagrees is an enemy who must be destroyed. Have you any non-FromSoft games you're interested in streaming? Yeah, tons of them. Like, I streamed Final Fantasy VII Remake for like 40 hours when it came out. So, yes. Am I single? Yes. What do you think makes Teemo worse than Rammus as a meme champ? Just curious. Rammus is fun, Teemo is fucking annoying. And they're both good memes, but, like, Rammus is fun. Would you do a redesign along with Subjectively? I mean, that's kind of up to them. Would they want to? I don't think they know who I am, so... And I don't know them either. Like, I've never talked to them. So, I don't know how... Heck, if I know, I'd have to talk to them to find out whether I would. What's more important, reworking old champions or adding new ones? Reworking old ones. Like, just fucking follow up on something. Like... They need to add new champions to the game because blah blah monetization etc. But God, I just want them to follow up. I just want them to write stories about the champions we already have. There's 150 motherfucking these assholes, and there's gonna be even more by the end of next year. So no, just rework the old ones. Write more stories for the ones we already have. Stop making new champions. What's the best lore with the worst character design? Oh, I mean, that's Kai'Sa. Like, just because her character design is so shitty. At least to me. Like, again, all of this is opinions. It's not objective, it's opinions. Hey, TV Scan, I've been a fan for years now, love your content. What's your favorite piece of fiction that Riot has released so far? What else would you like to see added to the developing universe? I've already talked about that. It's Echo's short story Lullaby. That's my favorite fiction. You should look it up, it's amazing. Would you ever do something similar to Nakrit's video on the champion themes? Like the music? No, I'm not a musician. Well, I am a musician, that's a lie, but I'm not a music theorist. I don't know anything about music theory at all. I know how to play chords on a guitar and piano and stuff, but... So I don't know music analysis. Which champion do you think has the best connection between their gameplay and character story? Gameplay and character? Probably Fiddlesticks, really. At what point would the game collapse due to over 200 plus champions? Yeah, like at some point you can't put any more champions in League of Legends. At some point they kind of have to stop, I think. Favorite region? Freljord? My favorite piece of music from League? I don't know. I don't know. I'm really bad at picking favorites. Like, it's rare that I have a clear answer. Like, I know Freljord in Runeterra, but that's only because of Braum and Yordles. What characters would you like to see in Legends of Runeterra, as they'd probably get a mini update? I mean, all of them? Like, I don't think there's any character I don't want to see in Legends. Well, Kai'Sa. I don't want to see Kai'Sa in Legends of Runeterra. But any of them, all of them. I don't know how to pick a favorite there. Like, I rarely do. Asking me questions about picking favorites usually just gets a very non-committal, vague answer from me. What is Yi's story-wise if design is C? I guess it's like a C or a B also. Like, I don't find him very compelling. He's like, oh, my village was destroyed and now I am sad about it. That's not really... Would you think old Soraka is better than new? Not in terms of quality, but I did like she was a more compelling aesthetic, I think, because she was less obvious hot girl and more like weird goat person. Were you disappointed that Evelyn and the other demons aren't the 10 that Fiddles was talking about? Yeah, a little bit, because, like, it just kind of seems to indicate to me that they're planning to do 10 more fucking demons. And as I've mentioned before, I don't want them to add more stuff to League of Legends. I don't want them to add more characters. I want them to just develop the ones that you have. But that's me. What deck am I playing in Legends of Runeterra right now? I recently played a Karma deck that was all about replicating spells to trigger Puffcap Peddler. And I could never get it to work. Like, I could never get the Puffcap Peddler to really go off. But I did manage to, like, kill someone by casting, like, 3 Mystic shots in a row with a leveled up Karma on the board. It's just smashing his Nexus. That was very funny. That's going to be up on my second channel in not too very long, if you want to watch that. Yeah, Kenji, that I don't know how to pick favorites, especially I just don't. I'm bad at it. I get into my head and start thinking too hard about it. Do you want a full Poro hero? Yes. Yes. That I would accept that as a new character, a Poro champion. What about reworking Nocturne into a demon of the 10? I don't know. We don't know what the fuck the 10 are, so I don't know how you would do that. I'd rather rework Nocturne into a sleep demon who's actually a sleep demon. To repeat the question of Chat Hivemind, what champion would you most like to bed? Oh, I have to pick? There's so many good ones. It also depends on the manner of being bedded, you know. There's many ways to have fun with someone. Late here, how is Tristana S? She's just a Yordle with a cannon and a go-getter attitude. Because she's a really good version of a Yordle with a cannon and a go-getter attitude. Oh, this chat is horny. TV Sky wants an orgy. You can't prove that. You can't prove that. You don't know that. If you could vacation to a region in Runeterra, where would it be? No. Nope. 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 Not. No. Absolutely not. I'd die. No matter where I went, I would die immediately. I wish we knew more about Ishtal, Blessed Isles, and Icathia. We'll know more about the Blessed Isles with the Ruined King game, I'm pretty sure. Like, once that one comes out, we'll know a lot more about the Blessed Isles. But Icathia and Ishtal, yeah, are very underdeveloped. Can you think of an archetype off the top of your head that you would like to see in League? An old witch. I've answered that one already. An old... old witch. Why isn't there an old witch? I don't get it. Kill, marry, fuck with a twist. You can only choose from S-tier champions. I absolutely kill Fiddlesticks, because I don't want that to exist. Marry? I'm really not the marrying kind, but if I absolutely had to, I'd guess I'd marry Poppy, because she seems like she probably wouldn't murder me. And as for the last one, well... Oh, there's so many to choose from. Elusive is an unfun mechanic, yes or no? No, it's not. It's a fun mechanic. You just have to actually account for it. Any skins that make characters S tier? Ooh. No, I don't think so. I don't think there's a character who would, like, get bumped all the way up there by a skin. Like, Misfortune, maybe? But even then, no. Why did you not compare Jinx to her obvious Harley Joker origin? Because she doesn't have an obvious Harley Joker origin at all. For one thing, we don't know her origins. That's one thing. For another thing, she's Vi's long-lost sister, which we'll find out when we get to the Arcane animated series. And we don't know why she went crazy. So, like, there's no obvious Harley Joker origin there at all. She's just a, like... Every smiling sociopath is not a Joker, you know. My favorite skin line lore-wise... Oh, Star Guardians. Easily. Star Guardians. That one I know. Just because it's the one that has the most potential to be an actual fucking ongoing standalone story, but Riot hasn't pulled the trigger on making an anime yet for some reason. Wouldn't Kale's Iron Inquisitor bump her to an S rank? No. A, maybe. Who do you want to have their character arc pushed forward? All of them. All of them. Like, there's no champion whose story I don't want to see developed. If I had to pick one that I really, really, really want to develop more on, I Poppy, because she has such a compelling narrative. Thoughts on Omega Squad, Viger? Nope. What League champion fits in Dark Souls the most? I mean, probably Karthus, really. Like, I could imagine a Dark Souls boss like the Death Singer. Seems like a sensible thing. People have been connecting Echo, Jinx, Vi, and Warwick because of their in-game dialogue. Opinions? I don't know about Echo or Warwick. Like, Jinx and Vi are sisters. We know this for sure. Warwick, we don't really know much about his backstory or background, so... Which champion would benefit from a sex change? Oh, that's actually a very good one. Because there's certain champions where... Like, this is a question you should always ask of character design, is like, if you make a champion one gender or another... Ask yourself, could I gender flip this character? And would they still work just as well? And if so, why not do that? Like, would that be more unexpected? Would that be more variety? Would that be more interesting? And if not, you know, obviously don't do it. But if it is, you know, do. And that's an interesting question. Like, for example, I would not mind a male Evelyn. Gender swapping Evelyn would make Evelyn very interesting all of a sudden, because that's such a rare fucking thing to have a male succubus, like, or an incubus as they would technically be known, but like a male character who embodies that kind of erotic seduction. That would be extremely interesting. End the Space? No, haven't played that. Anyway, I feel like we probably wound down the questions at this point. And we've been going, yeah, let's go until we've gone 8 hours. Let's go 8 hours, just for the round number. Oi. Thank you. Jesus Christ, there's still 1,000 people here. I cannot believe that. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Like, so many of you are here, and it's been so much fun watching chat get horny about every other character that we talk about. And I've had a lot of, like, my voice is hurting a little bit, but it's been a lot of fun. And I'm really glad that you all tuned in and you indulge me in this ridiculousness. That's very kind of you. And also thank you very much for all the super chats. Like, genuinely, you may have paid like a month's rent for me with the super chats this time around, which is very nice, because the channel was like, after I went to the hospital, videos slowed down and my ad revenue kind of tanked. So this has been helpful, besides being funny and fun. Thoughts on Eldritch Horror Volley? He's better than Base Skin. He should have been the one we got, but we didn't get him because, I don't know, Volibear mains. Bleh. Who do you think is a himbo amongst the male champions? Oh, Rakan, obviously. Massive himbo energy coming off him. What makes Janna more appealing than the likes of Kai'Sa? I feel like she's one champ that needs a visual redesign other than Kayle. Yeah, Janna could definitely do... Like, make her naked. Just do it. God damn it. Or make her into a proper wind spirit. Yeah, Frederick the Catfish. I went to the hospital. It was fine. It was a false alarm. Everything was cool. I'm totally okay. But it took me some days to recover. Which male champion has the biggest... I mean, Hecarim, probably, statistically. How would you improve Ahri? I would have her character design reflect more her current state of lore, where she's kind of horrified by the things that she does to people. Like, she's been sucking people dry of life force for a long time. And she doesn't like that. Like, she's struggling with guilt and fear and pain about it. And I'd like to see that reflected in her character design more than her seductiveness. Favorite League ship, as in potential couple. Braum and Ilawi? That would be funny. And kind of cool. Kane should be deleted and replaced by Rost alone. This is not a question. I just want you to read it out loud. Well, I mean, Kane has his place. He's there so that you can be very happy when Rost finally takes over. Super chat, stop me buying my fast food. You help me. Okay. Oh, yeah, cook some food. It's good for you. You think Riot should kill off characters? Yes. Yes, because there's 150 of these motherfuckers and we don't need all of them. Like, Gragas would be a good candidate to get killed off, just to get rid of him. Like maybe Shaco, Xin Zhao. Like, kill off Garen, like, to give Lux's storyline some drama and tragedy. Because he's a guy with a sword, we can replace him. Any thoughts on Garen and Katarina in Legends of Runeterra, since they pretty much... Garen and Katarina has been confirmed for ages and ages and ages. That's not new. Let's kill Gangplank again, yeah. Kassadin could be killed and affect nothing. Yeah, that's one of the weaknesses of the character, is that he has no connections to anyone or anything else. Sona main here, kind of sad to see her in F, but it's understandable and I wish she got a rework. If you got to be the director of the rework, how would you rework her appearance, lore, abilities? I mean, I'd make her not be a Hatsune Miku clone anymore, in terms of her visuals. First of all, I would give her a more elaborate instrument, something that's not just like 6 strings nailed to a board. I probably wouldn't have her floating, because that's kind of weird and random and doesn't make sense when she lives in Demacia. Probably would decrease the bust size. Like, I would probably make her more of a petite character, like to have a small stature, but then she makes big noise. Would probably be the kind of thing that I'd do, which is probably why it's better that I'm not in charge of it, because people would riot. Do they think they should add Ornn and Volibear's seal sister? I'm sure they will. Like, I'm sure they will. What kind of animal human Vastaya would you want to see? Ooh. That's a good question. I wouldn't mind a bat Vastaya. Like, one of the really ugly bats, like a vampire bat or something. Do you reckon that Kusho will come up again in the lore, or was he only relevant for the said comic? I'm afraid he was only relevant for the said comic. I think he's just gonna stay in that comic and not come up again, unless he's gonna, like, people are predicting he's gonna turn into the guy who refused to die champion. But I feel like that champion they're talking about, the man who refused to die, I feel like that's probably gonna be Yone or something. Like, after they do Senna, sure, they'll bring Yone back. So yeah. Well, Goats and Glory, Kassadin doesn't have any... Kaisa doesn't know that he's her father, and Kassadin doesn't know that Kaisa is his daughter. And they've never met either in the lore. They've only ever met in Summoner's Rift, which is not canon. So... no. Anyway, that's 8 hours. I should probably stop now. I should probably stop now. So once again, thank you all very much for tuning in. Thanks for being here. Like I said, I've had a tremendous amount of fun. So, as usual, like, comment, subscribe. Blah, blah, I have a Patreon, blah, blah, monetization thing, algorithm. If you want to watch me play Legends of Runeterra, that happens over on my second channel. There should be a link in the description somewhere. And, like, at the end of my videos, I try to encourage people, generally speaking. Like, you've supported me a lot tonight, I'm very grateful for that, but I would like to also encourage you to support other content creators whose work you enjoy. Because especially, like, these times with the pandemic and shit that's going on, advertisement rates on YouTube and other online platforms have been plummeting. Like, they've been absolutely dropping into the shitter. And some YouTubers have lost as much as 50% of their ad revenue. I haven't been hit by it very much. Like, for me, it's been like a 10% drop or something, which is fine. But some people have lost like half of their income. From advertising. So if there is a content creator whose work you like, especially smaller content creators, please consider supporting them with like a donation or on Patreon or something like that, because that $1 donation is the same as thousands of views on a video. Like, it makes a huge difference. So yeah, just generally speaking, try to support content creators because they need the help a lot more than you think. Other than that, thank you all of you, good lord, so many, very much for watching. I hope you've had a good time. I certainly have. And please do remember to wash your hands.